Welcome back to the channel, Crypto Trend Trader with a quick update on Bitcoin. But before we get started, I'd like to remind you this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. These markets are extremely volatile, so please do your own research and trade responsibly. So here we have Bitcoin on the daily. And before we get started here, I just want to give a little credit to the indicators that I use every day. There is countless amounts of work going into basically designing and fine-tuning these indicators for mainly the time frames you see me use throughout the videos, the daily, the 4 hour, but you can use them down on shorter time frames or longer time frames like weekly and monthly as well, and they work phenomenally well. So if you're not using these indicators, the three that I have pulled up here are my primary three indicators. I recommend that you go on TradingView and you use them for free. They are currently available for free. They're not always going to be that way. So I highly recommend that you grab them up. If you're not using TradingView, that is the program or the website that I use. They provide a service. It's great. I highly recommend it, but you can essentially go on here and do all the charting I do in all these. And if anybody's interested too, I've actually thought about making my charts public so that you can go on there and just have my exact chart with my lines on it, my indicators on it, everything. If that's something you might be interested in, please like the video and leave me a comment so I know that people are interested in that, and I will start providing those as well. But I just want to touch base real quick on each one of them and give a little focus to them. So if you're not familiar with it, as a matter of fact, I'm going to turn this on. If you're not familiar with it, this is TJD prophecy, and this is basically all your moving averages with parabolic SAR and binary pivots all built in together. And as you'll see, we were just talking about this. Essentially, we were going to get rejected off the 200 SMA, and then we're going to come back down after we broke through the 200 EMA, and then we're going to base back off the 200 EMA. And I mean, just those two moves right there are like obvious, but we were talking about back here, as soon as we got the cross over the 10 over the 21, that was a bullish uptrend on the daily. And now as soon as they crossed back through, we were already out of the trade. We got the short off 91.75, which is like literally the top of the wick. I mean, we almost didn't get filled, honestly, on Kraken, which is crazy because usually the wicks go way higher. But anyway, I mean, it sells off, takes out. As soon as we said here when we based on top of the 10 and we were about to take out the parabolic SAR, that green dot right there, as soon as we take it out, bam, the dump. So, I mean, just this one alone did phenomenally well. But now let's pull up the TJD Jewel Thief. We were literally talking about this. As soon as we got the big stab up here, we were talking about we were looking for the high, but it wasn't in yet. We entered into the red distribution zone, so you want to start taking shorts or selling off your position. And then you'll see right here, we got the cross of the blue down below the purple. We exited the red bearish control zone, and then we got the hard sell. And as you can see, that all happened right before the big dump right here. So you can see what it does is it preludes the market. It tells you right before the rest of the market what's about to happen. And you'll see we can go back here to the buy area too, and it gives you the hard buy back here. It actually gives it to you different depending on which exchange you're on. So it is important to look at different exchanges, honestly, with some of these indicators. And you'll see also, last but not least, the TJD, TD MACD. It gets like two histogram wicks over here, flips back, you start accumulating, you take profits or get stopped out, obviously. You would end up reaccumulating right here when you get the bullish cross over the green, keeps going up. When you get the blue slope right here, that's a strong, powerful trending trade. And then when you get two red histograms in a row, you would take the exit position. And then you'll see if you use all three of these together, if one of them is not quite as reliable in these situations, it works out perfectly. And then if you switch over to like longer time frames, the longer the time frames, the more reliable the indicators are. Because you'll see that's why we use like specific ones we do, like this 55 right here. This 55 is the SMA. It perfectly pulls the price up this whole time. The 55 literally holds the price up this entire time. We never get a weekly close below the 55. That's why we use the 55. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it works phenomenally well. Now you look over here, this is the 50 EMA, and you'll see the 50 does the exact same thing. The 50 EMA catches the price right here on the weekly and holds it up, and we don't see a close below it. And then when we come down, when we break it, we dump straight down to the 55. And then as soon as we come up, we can't get above the 50. So, I mean, these are just very common things that people are using. This is weekly, and all that is the difference between, 50 and a 55, and one's the EMA and the other's the SMA. But, you'll see, and it's the same way with the 200s on here. If you look at like the longer time frames, over here, it's like, you see it bouncing off the 200s, bouncing off the 528. You know what I mean? We bounce up, we find base on there. I don't know. You can go through and look at all this stuff. But honestly, like the daily time frame is probably the most reliable. But I've used these all the way down to like 15-minute time frames. And people have asked me also about like what are the better settings for like the shorter time frames. And the truth is, if you want to go through and adjust the settings on these things, you can either go through and just back test it yourself and see what works the best, or just switch it to like regular old MACD settings. So just put it on like, typical MACD settings and use it on whatever time frame you want, because essentially all that's doing is just looking at what everybody else that's trading that time frame is doing as well. So if you're on a 15-minute time frame, anybody else that's on that 15-minute trading it or scalping it or whatever is going to be using like probably like the stock settings as well. So, and then if you want to fine tune it from there, that's fine. But essentially the idea of most of these indicators is to make it easy to see, and then also to see what everybody else is seeing. That's really the idea. It's the same thing with drawing trend lines and stuff like that on a chart. You're just hoping like enough people out there are drawing lines in the same place as you are, that they're trading based on it, or an algorithm or a bot, or you're picking up on something that, a market mover is doing based on that pattern. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And that's why horizontals are the most reliable, is they're the least subjective, so they're the most reliable. There's not a lot of ways that people could see this differently. That's what I was saying about these breakdown points. With the support resistance, you see where this blue line has essentially formed right here. That's a very strong support. So when we break down below that, that becomes a strong resistance. And this essentially is drawing that for you, and it's drawing that triangle for you. You see it's drawn here, purple on top, blue on bottom. And then we break down from it. You know what I mean? And then the purple starts coming down faster, and then it gives you this zone right here that we're trading in. We're trading inside the zone, and then we start coming down. When we break out the bottom, look, now it's formed. This is the new support. This area, this line right here is support zone. And then you see we started stair-stepping up here, and that was our resistance the whole time. We're stair-stepping, stair-stepping. Now that the SAR has flipped right here at the top of the resistance zone, you would expect it to sell back off to either the same low down here, the same support zone, or down to the bottom of the support zone, or even break that. So that's our new target right here, is basically 6,800 to 6,400. So 64 to 6,800 is our new target now for like the bottom support zone. I'm not saying we're going to get all the way down there. I was already saying basically I expected us to come down here and then test this 200. And then essentially what I think is going to happen is I think we're going to come down in between the 200 and the 50 on the daily, and we're going to ping pong right inside here while the market decides, because that's the most frustrating thing, is wasting time. And the longer we just waste time in here and bounce around and consolidate, the more people get liquidated based on time, and the more people get frustrated and stop paying attention. And then when the big move happens, they miss it and they have to FOMO in. Or they put their trade in a dumb spot because we're just ping-ponging around in this tiny little area for days or weeks or whatever. But that's what I think's about to happen. I think we're headed right down here. We're going to get a bounce, come back down, but we're not going to get the golden cross right now. We're going to stay right in between the 200 and the 50, and we're just going to have everybody guessing. And then finally when we get that break, it's going to be a powerful one. And the way it looks now, it's going to be to the downside, in my opinion, based on the charts. But anything could change before then. I mean, one candle can change everything. I still think there's a good possibility we come back up and test 9,000. So, well, there you have it. Crypto Trend Trader. Just want to talk a little bit about the indicators. They are available for free. They do work on long and short time frames. I mean, you can go down. I don't like to go to short time frames and mess around, but I mean, they work phenomenally well. I mean, right here, you just got the SAR flip on the short time frame. You're getting rejected by the 10. So, you could basically trade this, that the second the 10 gets above the 21, you take a long. Like right here, look, it never quite happened. 10 never gets above the 21. It gets rejected and dumps. So if this 10 goes above the 21, there's tons of trading strategies you can use on any time frame, that work just as good. You just have to be careful, because if you're in a downtrend and you're trying to trade a 15-minute reversal, you're going to get wrecked every time, because it's going to tell you like that we're done dumping way before we're done dumping on a short time frame. And we could be dumping for like weeks or months, and you're over here on a 15-minute getting cleaned out, and you don't realize why trading doesn't work. So make sure you're not that guy. Make sure if you can trade on longer time frame and you're successful with it, then go down to a shorter time frame and start trading on that time. As your skill level increases, the time frame that you look at can decrease. So the better you get at like trading the weekly, go ahead, trade a little bit on the daily. Better you get at trading the daily, go ahead, trade a little bit on the 4 hour. Whatever you want to do, just make sure that you're not just jumping straight down to the shorter time frames and just getting crushed in the beginning. Trade the longer time frames and then use the shorter time frames to look at. One of the most frustrating things that I see people doing is jumping back and forth between like 10 different time frames: the hourly, the 2 hour, the 4 hour, the 6 hour, the 12 hour, the 24 hour. You're going to see what you want to see if you jump between 20 time frames. What you need to do is stay on a couple key time frames, use those time frames, and then use different shorter or longer time frames to confirm what you're seeing on them. Don't just go through time frames until you see what you want. But anyway, there's lots of strategies out there. The most important thing to do is find what works for you and use that. But these indicators, I guarantee you, if you're not using them already, they're absolutely free right now. Go ahead and check them out, and they'll help you out. And if you don't know how to use them, I do have a couple of videos basically walking through you the basics on how to use all of my indicators. So there you have it, crypto trend trader. Little update. We'll get some actual TA going on here too for you. Everything's playing out exactly like we said. I'm expecting it to base back off the 200 area between 8100 8200. Just remember, we say all this before it happened. You go back and watch the last few videos, and this is all playing out exactly to a T, just like we said. Just like we said from way back here. All this exactly coming back down, bouncing around. Holla, crypto trend trader signing off.